Hi, John Langan here. I'm a traffic safety and crash expert, and I have some life-saving tips I want to share with you. And before I do, I want to share my personal story of how I got to that point. When I was a young child, I lived in a ghetto area with my parents. My dad was an alcoholic. My parents fought constantly. I was a witness to all that. Matter of fact, they'd wake me up in the middle of the night to be a witness to this fighting. And when I was 10, I came home from lunch with my mother, and she said, "We're going to see my grandmother." We took off and headed in that direction. We never arrived. Instead, we arrived at a distant relative that I never had met before. They had 8 kids and an abusive father, and my mother left me there and drove away and left me with only the clothes I had on my back. I never returned to my home again or seen my father for over 3 years. Half a year later, my mother returned, and I went to live with her and a boyfriend who was abusive. I stayed with her for 2 years, and then she got another boyfriend who was even more abusive, and they were going to get married. And I said, enough. I had it. I was 13 now, and I just got to see where this was all heading. And I said, this is not good. No. And I went to live with my father, and my father and I lived together. He was still an alcoholic, and we lived together for a number of years until I was 19, and the drinking caught up with him. He was warned by doctors to stop drinking, and he didn't. And I couldn't stand the pain of witnessing him dying in front of me, so I left. A month later, I met my wife, the love of my life, on May 5th. 2 weeks later, I went to her senior prom. 2 weeks after that, she graduated. A week later, my dad died on Father's Day weekend. A week later, I was engaged. 2 months later, we were married. And then after being married, and I turned 20, I was hired by the police department, and I was the first one to come out of that ghetto I grew up in and become a police officer and patrol the streets back in there. And I loved being married. I loved having children, and I loved being a police officer and helping people and having a voice for helping people that didn't have a voice in their own. And I then became a crash expert working in a highway safety unit of the police department. And the reality of those tragedies slammed me. The devastation and the horror that I witnessed of these traffic crashes really got me because I realized the vulnerability of my own family, my own loved ones, and just how fast the crash could happen, and just how I couldn't protect them all. It became further frightening when I realized and learned that traffic crashes were the #1 cause of death for all people in the United States under the age of 35. So what I did, it became my mission then to, like my childhood, to take all that adversity, all that been through, all that experience, and flip it into some good, and to create a legacy on that. So by doing that, what I did was I got to help save. I have to teach my children, because when they start driving, I got gray hair, and I was home at night hearing sirens, and they're late, and I'm worrying where are they at, and I know the reality what's out there. So I taught them how to drive, and that was great. I mean, they never had a crash as a teenager. That was great, but they're still vulnerable out there driving, and I knew that the best way to protect them was to teach all the other drivers out there, to get a system out there to empower the entire public to be in a better position, because you cannot eliminate all the risk out there. You can greatly reduce them, but you cannot eliminate them all. So that became a mission of mine. I started 2 nonprofit organizations to do this. I go into schools whenever I had the opportunity, pro bono. I've been on radio, on TV, in churches, in civic groups. Any opportunity I get to speak on traffic safety, I will. It's a mission of mine to share this information because of the profound impact it's had on my life. What I've seen, the sadness, the tragedies of loss of loved ones out there, which was another trigger because of losing my dad, my really closest loved one I had and lost. So that's my mission, and I'm on it now, and I'm grateful for this opportunity right now to be able to share my life-saving messages out there, and by raising the awareness of the scope of the problem and by offering some tips that could save some lives. And one is your mindset. First of all, you got to realize that driving is the most dangerous activity that the average person will ever do in their entire life, is just drive a car. I mean, every time you go to car, you just go to the store, or you go to a movie, or you go anywhere, you literally are risking your life when you drive. And you need to blend in there and balance it out that you're not afraid to drive, but you must never lose the respect for driving, nor lose the awareness of the gravity and the seriousness of driving. Because when you come up to a stop sign and you go like this, and you go that fast, you just made a life and death decision, and boy, you better be right, because people can be dead or paralyzed for the rest of their life. And as far as making decisions on that too, whenever possible, you need to think about what is the safest way to get from point A to point B. Not the quickest, not the shortest, what's the safest way? And that means eliminating any and all left turns that you can. So, I mean, unless there's a left, you're at an intersection with a traffic control signal and it's got a left turn arrow. Other than that, if you come up to a stop sign, you're trying to make a left-hand turn across a multi-lane highway, that is one of the most dangerous things you're ever going to do in your entire life. And akin to that would be if you're on a multi-lane highway, stopped in the left-hand lane, sitting in traffic, waiting to make a left-hand turn, because what you're doing is sitting there in this traffic, and this traffic is whizzing by you, and you've literally forfeited control of your life to the people behind you. And you better hope and pray that they're paying attention and they're not texting or on a cell phone or eating french fries or adjusting the radio, because people are dead because of that. So you've got to protect yourself whenever you can and maintain control of your life whenever you can. And that makes you safer right there. And if you're making a left-hand turn and if there is a crash, guess what? The strongest part of their vehicles are going to hit the weakest part of your vehicle, which is going to increase the likelihood for serious injury or death. So there's just a couple of things right there. If you want some more information, take advantage of this website that the sponsors of this wonderful contest are promoting, and go to the link. I have a video available for free. You can get some more tips I'll in the car, drive around and point out some things about driving, some safety tips. And please realize the seriousness of this situation. And it's just for your whole family. It goes to everyone. And I want to, again, thank everybody for this opportunity. I thank everyone who took the time to view this video. I hope it's helpful. I hope the other one's helpful, because knowledge is power. And when it comes to driving, knowledge can be the difference between life and death. Thank you.